Women in Work, the 1960s and 1970s. The feminist movement of the 1960s and 70s originally focused on dismantling workplace inequalities such as denial of access to better jobs and salary inequality via the anti-discrimination laws. The 60s and 70s were a transformative time for women and work. There was a host of new and amended laws as well as influential advocacy. The workplace doors began to creak open for women. Women were now able to apply for higher paying jobs that once were available only to men. In the 1960s, many people believed that women belonged in the home and they should cook, do the household chores, and take care of their family. What opened the door for women to pursue professional careers was the access to the pill, reliable oral contraception, knowing they could now complete years of training or study and launch their career without being interrupted by pregnancy. The EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, formed in 1964. Throughout its existence, the Commission is focused on one simple stated mission: the elimination of illegal discrimination from the workplace. The National Organization for Women, NOW, formed in 1966. The NOW Statement of Purpose declares that the time has come to confront with the concrete action the conditions that now prevent women from enjoying the equality of opportunity and freedom of choice which is their right as individuals and as human beings. Laws protecting women's rights as workers would include the International Labor Organization, the Equal Remuneration Convention in 1951, Discrimination, Employment and Occupation Convention in 1960, the 1966, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, which went into force in 1976. The UNESCO also adopted the Convention Against Discrimination in Education in 1960, which came into force in 1962. Women of the 1960s and 70s would picket outside businesses that discriminated against equal positions with equal pay. Women continue to earn less money than men despite establishing equal pay laws. Women's expectations of future employment changed. Most women were secondary earners and worked in pink-collar jobs as secretaries, teachers, nurses, and librarians. Although more women attended college, it was often expected that they attend to find a spouse, the so-called Mrs. Degree. Nevertheless, job force participation by women still grew significantly. The 1970s. After a decade of protest and reform, the 1970s were all about change. There were still social and cultural remnants left from the 1960s, but they were overshadowed by the hint of what was to come. The changes were evident everywhere you looked, from music to television shows to the new and ever-changing workplace. The Quiet Revolution. Beginning in the 1970s, women began to flood colleges and grad schools. They began to enter professions like medicine, law, dental, and business. The percentage of women majoring in education declined beginning in the 70s, and majors such as business and management were on the rise. The reasons for this big jump in the 70s has been attributed by some scholars to widespread access to the birth control pill. The women's movement of the 70s. In part was a reaction against the type of happy homemaker that was often portrayed in television sitcoms of previous decades. The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Mary Richards, a career-oriented single woman who is a news producer for a TV station in Minneapolis. The Equal Pay Act 1970 was established, but it didn't come into effect until 1975. Landmark legislation followed that was intended to improve work life for women. In 1978, the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, PDA, was passed as an amendment to the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Workplace safety and training. Before the 1970s, formal training of any kind in the workplace was hit or miss. Safety measures were rarely included in the training. A shift toward employee safety began in 1970. Occupational Safety and Health Act formed in 1971. Safety training and standards would still take a while to become routine, but this was a substantial and positive change for workers. Compensation. The 1970s were marked by economic bouts of recession and inflation. To help stem financial woes for workers, legislators passed several important pieces of legislation. The Employment Retirement Income Security Act, the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, and the Revenue Act.